All right, let's get into it. Today, we are talking about one of the most exciting frontiers in all of medicine, the fight against cancer, and how it's being absolutely supercharged by artificial intelligence. We're going to look at a brand new tool that could completely change how we diagnose and treat one of the most common cancers on the planet. But before we get to the AI solution, we really have to wrap our heads around the problem. So what makes breast cancer so incredibly difficult to pin down? Well, the short answer is, it's not just one disease. And that complexity brings us to this really critical idea that scientists and doctors are constantly dealing with. It's called disease heterogeneity, and it's the main reason why a one-size-fits-all treatment just doesn't work. Okay, so what is disease heterogeneity? I love the analogy on this slide. It basically means that even if two people have breast cancer, on a molecular level, they could have completely different diseases. Just saying it's cancer is like looking at the sky and saying, it's raining. Yeah, okay. But is it a light drizzle or a Category 5 hurricane? When it comes to treatment, that difference is, quite literally, life or death. So, to even begin to tackle this problem, researchers needed a solid way to tell the difference between rain and no rain in the first place. And that brings us to the first chapter in our story, an earlier AI tool that really set the stage for what was to come. That first step was a 2023 study called BRCDX, Precise Identification of Breast Cancer from Expression Data Using a Minimal Set of Features. Now, the goal here was pretty straightforward, but it was absolutely vital. Create a tool that could just tell the difference between healthy tissue and cancerous tissue. It's like teaching the AI its ABCs before it can write a novel. And you know what? BRCDX was great at its job. It used something called unsupervised learning, which is where the AI kind of figures out patterns on its own, and it hit a 95.5% accuracy rate using just 9 biomarkers. A fantastic starting point. But it still only answered that one basic question, the whole hurricane versus drizzle problem. That was still out there.
And that is where our story takes a huge leap forward, with the development of a next-generation AI that goes way, way beyond a simple yes or no. This quote from the researchers themselves just says it all. The medical world desperately needed tools that could not only diagnose, but also predict how a cancer would behave. They needed biomarkers that were both theragnostic, meaning they help guide therapy, and prognostic, meaning they help predict the outcome. They needed to know the nature of the storm. And this is where we meet the team behind the breakthrough. From the Systems Computational Biology Lab at the School of Chemical and Biotechnology at Sastra University, we have researchers Sangeetha Muthamilselvan, Natarajan Vaithilingam, and Ashok Palaniappan. They published the paper that changes the game, BC Predict, mining of signal biomarkers and production of models for early-stage breast cancer subtyping and prognosis.
So what are we talking about here? Look at this comparison. It's not just a little upgrade. BRCDX could do one thing, and it did it well. BC Predict does that one thing even better, and then it bolts on 3 more incredibly crucial diagnostic capabilities. This isn't just an update, it's a total evolution. So how in the world does it do all of that? Let's break it down and look at the 4 powerful diagnostic models that are all packed into this one amazing tool.
It works like a cascade. So instead of one single answer, BC Predict takes a sample and guides it through this series of 4 questions, each one getting more and more detailed, building a complete picture of the cancer. So let's see how each step holds up. Okay, step 1, the basic question, is it cancer? BC Predict uses a supervised one-layer neural network for this. Think of it as a highly trained specialist AI. By looking at just 10 gene features, it hits an incredible 97.42% accuracy. That's a big jump up from BRCDX, and it shows just how precise this new tool is.
Next up, it asks a really critical question. Has the cancer spread? Is it metastatic? This is hugely important for a patient's prognosis. This model can tell the difference between early, non-metastatic stages and the much more dangerous metastatic stage 4, with 88.22% accuracy. And get this, it does that by looking at only 5 genetic features. That kind of efficiency is absolutely key for creating fast, affordable tests down the line. All right, now we get into the real drizzle versus hurricane stuff, the cancer's molecular identity. For this part, the tool uses a random forest model, which is kind of like getting a consensus from a whole committee of AI decision makers. Using 16 features, it can identify key subtypes like luminal, HER2-positive, and the really aggressive triple-negative breast cancer with 88.79% accuracy. This is the information that tells doctors exactly which treatments will be most effective.
And finally, model number 4 looks at the cancer's actual physical structure, what it looks like under a microscope. This is its histology. Using a powerful combo of two AI models, it can distinguish between the two most common types, invasive ductal and invasive lobular carcinoma, with a staggering 94.23% accuracy using 24 features. You put all four of these steps together, and you get a complete, high-definition picture of the disease that was just unthinkable a few years ago.
But, having these super powerful AI models with amazing accuracy scores is one thing. How do you actually know they're legit? How do you make sure the AI isn't just getting lucky? Well, this is where the research gets even more impressive.
They did something called multi-omics validation. You can basically think of this as a deep biological fact-checking process. They didn't just trust the model's output. They dug into other layers of biological data to see if the genes the AI flagged as important actually made sense in the bigger picture. They cross-referenced their findings with two other major data types. First, mRNA profiles. These are tiny molecules that act like dimmer switches for genes, turning their activity up or down. And second, DNA methylation profiles. These are like chemical on-off switches placed directly on the DNA. By confirming that their results lined up across all these different layers, they added a huge amount of confidence that their models are the real deal. And this brings us to something that is just so important in science today. Breakthroughs like BC Predict don't just happen in a bubble. They are built on a foundation of collaboration and, crucially, open data sharing.
The only reason this research was possible is because of these massive public databases like the Cancer Genome Atlas, Metabrick, and the International Cancer Genome Consortium. The authors also made sure to give a shout-out to the Google TPU Research Cloud for providing the sheer computational horsepower needed to do this work. It's really a beautiful testament to the power of open science.
So, let's wrap this up. What does all of this actually mean? Why is a tool like BC Predict so important for the future?
It all comes down to this. It's a giant leap toward true, personalized medicine. By giving doctors this 4-part, high-resolution snapshot of a cancer using a tiny set of biomarkers, we can finally move away from generic treatments. We can start designing therapies that are perfectly tailored to the unique biological fingerprint of each person's individual disease.
The progress just from BRCA-DX to BC Predict shows you how fast this field is moving. It's really not a question of if AI is going to revolutionize cancer diagnostics anymore. It's just a question of when. Which leaves us with this incredible, tantalizing question: how soon could this kind of detailed, personalized diagnosis be the standard of care for every single patient walking into a clinic?